Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Hey, a special show today. My guest is the one and only Gianni Russo, and an old friend of the show and of mine.
Old is great, and you're right.
Well, yeah, I guess I should say. And a longtime resident of Las Vegas at one time, right?
I got to Las Vegas in 1959 and stayed 30 years.
And lived at the Marie Antoinette Apartments. You'll be happy to know they're still there, Gianni.
I know. Well, before that, I lived in the apartments right behind the Riviera. Then I bought a house on La Paloma Drive.
Right.
Had a child there, Gia. Then I moved to the country club.
The Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Hey, a special show today. My guest is the one and only Gianni Russo, and an old friend of the show and of mine.
Old is great, and you're right.
Well, yeah, I guess I should say. And a longtime resident of Las Vegas at one time, right?
I got to Las Vegas in 1959 and stayed 30 years.
And lived at the Marie Antoinette Apartments. You'll be happy to know they're still there, Gianni.
I know. Well, before that, I lived in the apartments right behind the Riviera. Then I bought a house on La Paloma Drive.
Right.
Had a child there, Gia. Then I moved to the country club. And then when I was building the hotel on the corner of Harmon and Colville Lane is when I moved into the Marie Antoinette and got in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, well, maybe we could talk a little bit about some of that trouble, but I wanted to start out just introducing, obviously you're famous because of your role in The Godfather. But, you had a lot of struggles up until that point, and even to get that role in The Godfather. You talk openly about how you had polio as a child and were bedridden for a number of years. Is that correct?
5 years, yeah. Well, my book, Hollywood Godfather, is a bestseller for 3 years now. I have over 5,000 five-star reviews. They just asked me to write another book called The Sixth Family. So my second book's out. I can't even write my name. I'm writing best-selling books. So all that you're talking about is in there, my life story.
Right. And in addition to writing books, and in addition to acting, in addition to singing, right, you also write, direct, and produce shows.
Yeah, 16 motion pictures, about 100 hours of television. No, I've been blessed. I mean, I did, it's crazy. Where out of all the 46 films, they won 9 Oscars besides, and I'm not an actor.
Right. Was The Godfather your first role?
Oh, yeah, it was my first film, fortunately.
Carlo and The Godfather. And how did that develop? I know you talk about it, but just kind of summarize it for people who haven't read the book.
Well, my ego, I always wanted to be an actor. People say, hey, you're a good-looking guy, be an actor. So I was 26. The Godfather book came out. It went into its 6th print. So I had someone read it to me because I'm an illiterate. And I said I could play Michael, Sonny, or Carlo. So I was doing my TV show, if you remember, Welcome to My Lifestyle, in Vegas from my house on the country club. So I shot a scene for each, submitted it to Paramount, and they sent me a nice letter saying, we misled you, we're really using actors. And then they had union problems and mafia problems with Joe Colombo, who was picketing the film and anything else. So I flew up here knowing a little about the mob, and it's always about money. And I said, Joe, we can make a lot of money on this. He said, well, how could we make a lot of money?
Right.
I said, well, he just hired a lawyer, a good lawyer, Barry Schlotnick, like yourself. And I said, let him read it. What you don't like, if they change it, let them shoot it. And we'll ask for the world premieres in every major city, which we did. And I also wanted the part of Carlo, and they gave it to me. That's how easy it was.
And the demonstrations, the picketing was really because of Italian defamation. They were concerned about how it portrayed ethnically Italians in the film initially.
Well, he created the Anti-Defamation League because of, but nobody knows the backstory. His son Joseph was arrested by the FBI, so he was using that as they think every Italian is in the mob and the mafia. And then the book came out, which gave him a bigger platform, and got a world stage. Got him killed too, but a year later, actually, to the day.
Wow. And then when you did get the role and you met with Marlon Brando, he wasn't all that enamored with you getting that part. Is that correct?
Nobody was, because we had a rehearsal. Fortunately, it was up 119th Street in Harlem. I was up there all the time. So I went up early, actually, and saw about Tony Salerno, everybody, Tony Federici. And they said, what are you doing here? I said, I'm in this movie, The Godfather. They said, what are you going to do in the movie? You're not an actor. I said, I got a big part. So I told him, but I'm playing Carlo. He said, get out of here. I said, I'm serious. And everybody that I told that thought I was lying. So now I go into the rehearsal, and Brando, they said when they brought Brando in, nobody should approach him. Nobody go have eye contact with him. So our first break, he came over to me. So I figured I ain't doing anything wrong. I said, he said, you're a big movie actor. I said, no. He said, you got a movie coming? I said, no. You got a TV show? I said, no. He said, well, you're not on Broadway. I said, what's this, a quiz show? I'm not any of those things. So he called Coppola over. He said, Coppola, this guy's playing my son-in-law. And he didn't hire me, so he wasn't enamored with me either. And he went through the whole script, how I undermined the family, and this guy's got to be a great actor. You should rethink it. So now with me, you know enough about my personality. This guy's going to get me fired. Forget it. So I told Coppola, I said, go over there a minute. Now, I didn't know protocol on the set. I can't dismiss the director. And he left. So the whole room got quiet. So not only did I look at Brando, I put my arm around him, and I walked him to the back because I know there's a zig and that game at night there, but there'd be nobody there. So I got right in his face because I didn't want to embarrass him. I said, let me tell you something, Mr. Brando. I know who you are, all due respect, but you get me fired. Listen to what I'm telling you. You get me fired, I will suck on your heart. You will bleed out right here. He stepped back. He said, that was brilliant. He thought I was acting. I meant it. And then we became friends.
But your difficulties on the set didn't really end there. You had some.
With Jimmy Caan and all this.
What happened with James Caan?
Well, yeah, they're all.
They had a fight scene. Yeah.
No, not only that, but they all studied with Stella Adler and all the other greats, and they couldn't understand how I got this part. And James Caan was supposed to play Michael until I got into the movie. Then what's her name? Coppola wanted Pacino, so they moved him to the smaller part. Sonny was killed in the middle of the movie. He was looking forward to Godfather 1, 2, and 3, so he took it out on me. So in the fight scene, I never did a fight scene. I never, to me there were fights and it was real. We did it. We blocked it. We worked on it a day to choreograph it. Next thing I know, this guy's beating me up. He's kicking me, banging me with steel garbage pail covers. He chipped my elbow. Then when I crawl out, he breaks 2 ribs.
Wow.
I made a decision that day. I'm never doing a fight scene again. Only love scenes. This is nuts. But then I got even with him. He never worked again. I don't know if you remember that. A year later, he never got he went only TV acting, and that was the end of James Caan. For your audience, for fun, they should go to New York Post. I eulogized James Caan. I said, you don't want me to do this. They should do it. I wrecked them. When you go, it's an interesting, and they printed it. I couldn't believe it. Just recently, last year he died.
Well, what did you? Okay, so now you finished The Godfather. I mean, biggest movie ever at that time. You at the height of, I guess, an exciting new career. What's going through your mind at that time?
Well, again, bringing up my beginnings, and now another accolade like this, I was pretty fortunate because, I opened jewelry stores in Vegas. I had wig salons in Vegas. I opened a restaurant in Vegas. I mean, I was building a hotel. I was pretty moving. I mean, for a guy in his late 20s, early 30s, I broke ground. I think you were at the groundbreaking, actually.
I was. I lived across the street from your restaurant in that the country club there.
Oh, yeah. So that it was an exciting time for me. Going to every show, I'd comped in every hotel because of The Godfather.
Right.
So this is an easy life.
But it wasn't so easy. I mean, it wasn't without a lot of drama and difficulty. Particularly at State Street. State Street, for our viewers at that time, was a restaurant and lounge bar, and it was like the hot spot of Las Vegas at that time. It was the place to be for dinner. Afterwards, there'd be a little bit of show. Gianni, oftentimes, you would sing there.
Right.
It was like the who's who of Las Vegas, and whoever was visiting, whatever celebrities were coming to town, everybody was at State Street. It was a gorgeous place. Yeah.
Sinatra, Dean, and Sammy were there every week. Anytime they were in town, they'd come 2:00 because I served gourmet dinner. That was the secret. I served gourmet food till 6 in the morning. Mm-hmm. Where in the hotels, you had to go to a coffee shop, and they didn't want to go there. And I had limousine service and pick them up. I had cars outside all the time, and it worked. It was a great run. I mean, it was almost 10 years.
Right.
Until October 28th, 1989.
One morning, I woke up, opened up the newspaper. On the front page of the paper, I'm reading about my friend Gianni Russo and an altercation at State Street. You want to talk about what happened?
Yeah, unfortunately. And, it's interesting because Steve Sharippa, who's now a major star, he was my doorman at that time, that night. and he made a career as in The Sopranos, and now he's a big star of Blue Bloods. And this guy came in, and I was always sitting up at the bar in the corner. I saw him come in, giving him $100 bills. Well, we used to see that a lot. A guy got lucky in a casino, and he had a lady with him called Laura Manis, who I knew because she was a cocktail waitress at the Stardust. They came in, they got a table. They weren't sitting 10 minutes. And, he had a bottle of Cristal, a bottle of Louis XIII, 2 ounces of Beluga caviar. This guy was a player. He breaks the Cristal bottle and stabs Lois in the face. Thank God he missed her eye.
Wow.
So I called Syrup. I said, get to table 7. He said, I ain't going over there. That guy's nuts. I said, what do you think I hired you for? Get over there. So I went over and, I introduced myself. I said, this is my place. I said, you hear these sirens, they're coming for you. Get out of here. I got to take her to the hospital. Fortunately, the Sunrise Hospital was right down the block, but she was bleeding. He said, no, man. I said, no, man, where are you from? And I didn't know he had the bottle yet. So he looked like he was going to go for her. He fooled me, spun around and cut me along my chin. I went back. He went for my throat, but he got me along my chin. So now I'm saying, this guy's going to kill me. So I thought fast enough. I said, look, we did tell my shirt. I waited 6 months for the shirt. It's Sea Island cotton. This guy's looking at me like I got 2 heads. He's, I just cut this guy. I could see the blood. And he's worried about his shirt. I just wanted to get my hand on my gun. So I got my hand on my gun. I put it to his forehead. I said, now you want to go out the right way or go out a black bag? He's F you. I said, oh, really? So I put 2 right between his eyes. And that's what you saw in the headlines.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And ultimately, the police department here did not file any charges. It was justifiable.
Yep.
You were protecting yourself and your patron over at the restaurant. Thereafter, you continued to do a lot of movies. You mentioned you had about 40-some films plus all television shows. I remember once God, you gave me a bit part in one of your movies,
Oh yeah, that we
Gaming Commissioner, for which he stands, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Ed McMahon, you were in good company. Billy Forsythe. There was a lot of good actors in that.
Right.
Yeah, I wrote and produced that. It's still doing well. I get, you know, it's so funny. I sit now, I'm 80 years old, and I get residual checks through the unions.
Right.
And we start seeing these checks now. They're bigger than ever because now all these around the world, they have cable television.
Right.
So
which film that gives you the biggest residual check?
Right now, would have to be the Family Man, because not Family Man. Any Given Sunday, I had 30 movie stars. It was a big production. Oliver Stone directed, and it's played all over the world. Then I would say Family Man with Nicolas Cage, because it's played every Christmas. So it's I have a good library of film, and 16 of them I own part of the negative. So
and you've worked for a lot of wonderful directors.
Oh my God, yeah.
Some of the best at that time period.
Oh no, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I was. I mean, we talked about just recently, Nick Pileggi and I. He said, you know, the work you did for a non-actor is ridiculous, but I never took it serious. My life, you know, like you said about my humble beginnings, coming out of a polio ward in 1949, spending 5 years there quarantined without seeing nobody. You got a different viewpoint when you hit the street. I just wanted to do anything. I thought, you know, I was invincible. As you know, I've been shot, stabbed, run over.
In those years you did have polio. Did you have television? I mean, you were bedridden watching TV? Was that it? It was no.
There was no television. There was nothing. We stood at the ceiling, and then I finally got a transistor radio by Dolores Barone, my floor nurse, because my nurse, and I was getting depressed because now my birthday's coming, nobody's coming. I never saw my mother and father, saw nobody. And I turned on the radio December 12th, and it was Sinatra's birthday. And I related to him because they said, you know, they humble beginnings from Hoboken, New Jersey. His mother was a barmaid. And I'm saying, if this guy could do it, I did it. And he inspired me. And then I got to meet him, and we became friends. He baptized my son Luciano, actually.
Right. Well, and you have always had, you know, I don't know, talk about having mob connections. How real is that?
Oh, it's so real. I mean, I'm still having mob connections. I love it. Well, my uncles and all, because of Sicily, it was not that I was hanging out with mobsters, but then you open nightclubs and you do a movie called The Godfather. I know everybody, every country. All the nightclubs I sang in, like you brought up. Like now I'm on tour right now, 18 cities. My book, as I mentioned, you know, My Life in the Movie and the Mob, I turned it into a musical. It's an 80-minute show. I'm playing all over the world with it.
So are you singing still?
Yeah, I'm singing. I sing 8 songs in it, and all kinds of clips. In fact, my research has found a picture of me I never saw until when I put the show together. I was the poster boy for Franklin Delano Roosevelt when they started the March of Dimes to raise the money for Jonas Salk's experiment. And these are the kind of things you can't even write.
Right.
I have these pictures now, and it's like everybody's oohing and ahhing in the audience when I showed them stuff.
I mean, this is a photo that you didn't know at the time that it was going to be for an ad?
I was in a full body cast for the first 6 months. They came in and took a picture of me. I didn't even take a picture of me. I was staring at the ceiling, and now we did our research. The guy Mike Austin, who does all my research, he did the research for the movie Seabiscuit, which was a period piece. And then he did all this, and he found stuff. When you see the show, if you have a job, I'm going to bring it to Vegas. But when you see it, you're going to sit there and say, wait a minute. Even during the presidential election, Senator John F. Kennedy, for 6 months, was in Vegas every weekend with Sinatra and all them when they were trying to get him nominated for the Democratic presidential. I was the eyes and ears for the New York mob just to be there. They weren't going to be there, but they were backing him with all the unions. And Joe Kennedy made a deal. If my son became president, the first thing he's going to do is bomb Cuba, bomb it, and they get all the casinos back. That's why they did it. But the mistake he made was get his brother in as Attorney General who hated him and his friends, and that was it. It's crazy.
You mentioned The Sixth Family, your new book,
right?
Fiction or partly fiction?
I had to. What happened was my book sold 86,000 copies. I didn't know. A bestseller is 10,000 copies. But if you go on Amazon right now, I have thousands of 5-star reviews on Hollywood Godfather. So Amazon came to me and said, we want to publish your next books. So my lawyer said, Johnny, you're going to wind up in jail. You keep talking about all your past. A lot of this stuff, as you know, it doesn't have a statute of limitation on it. So I said, I'll write novels. Yeah, hello. So I talked about 3 in that first one and got away with it because they were all ruled justifiable homicide. But after that, so I said, I'll do a fictional series. And they said, great. So they made me a 4-book deal, an amazing deal. And the disclaimer in my book says, this is fiction other than the truth.
And I would say that's a correct statement of the law.
No, it's actually perfect for this.
Yeah. One of the things you talk about in the story is a character, is a Marilyn Monroe character.
Oh, yeah. Well, Marilyn, I hooked up with Marilyn I was caught on the streets of New York working for Costello. I was like 13, 14, 15 years old. And the truant officer stopped me. He said, well, how come you're not in school? I laughed at him. I had like $5,000 in my pocket. I was going to Toots Shores at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I laughed at the guy. So he gives me a ticket. And I walk into Toots Shores, and everybody hung out there during the day. I mean, if Sinatra was in, anybody. And they saw me with the ticket. And I didn't even get it. He said, how'd you get a ticket? Walking over here too fast? And they picked it out, and he took it from me, and he said, this is a truant's ticket. How old are you? I said, I'm 15. You got to go to school. I said, I don't want to go to school. So he put me in Wilford Academy, right on top of Dempsey's, where I was one of my routes to pick up numbers. And these guys come in, Mark Sinclair and Kenneth, who was Senator John F. Kennedy's wife's hairdresser already. And they were looking for shampoo boys. So they brought me to Lily Daché. And the 4th head of hair I shampooed was Marilyn Monroe's. And I couldn't believe it because I was sleeping in the New York Palmer. And I watched something like it hot 10 times already while I was masturbating in the balcony. This girl was so hot, forget about it.
Yeah, look, you've had unbelievable coincidences in your life. And your timing has been, I guess, pretty damn good.
Well, yeah, because even in The Sixth Family, we disclose now that Marilyn and I have a daughter. She's 63 years of age, and she doesn't want to be recognized. I respect that. She gave me 2 more grandkids, and now I have 10 grandsons, 4 granddaughters. I have 10 sons and 3 regular daughters. It's like my family's nuts, and 10 mothers to the kids, 1 being Marilyn.
Wow. I don't even know how to even respond to that. Talk to me about the show you're performing right now.
Well, this show means an awful lot to me because it's a message, even like my grandchildren and all that. And I hate to say it, the new generation is so disrespectful. You know, my grandkids come in, they're on their phones all the time. So now when they come in, they have to leave their phones at the front door. They get mad, they call their mothers. I say, get out of my house. And they're not used to people talking to them like that.
Right.
I said, you can't come here and give me an hour. Don't come here no more. And my kids call me. He said, why'd you chase the kid out? I said, first of all, he comes in, he don't hug and kiss me. All that's out the door. So I wrote this book, try to instill what respect is. That's the motto that's the thread of your life. When you lose respect, you're going to lose self-respect too. It's got to go out the window. But look at society. You got men hitting in New York, 82-year-old ladies. I mean, what are we crazy?
Yeah. And you were talking, as you were talking about your childhood and talking about truant officers, I was wondering how many of our viewers really even know what a truant officer is.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, in the 40s and 50s, the school districts employed, I guess, pseudo cops, kind of.
Yeah, they had a brown uniform. They look like dog catchers.
Yeah. To look for school children not in school.
Right.
Right. If you ever watched Spanking Our Gang, you would know what a truant officer was.
Oh yeah, there you go. Now who's watched that recently? Hello.
Yeah, for sure. So what when you say like, hey, you're still, hanging or involved with members of the mob, I mean, these got to be your contemporaries. These got to be people in their 80s and above. Not in the mob anymore, right?
Well, no, they're new people
Yeah.
I don't want to be bothered with. But there's still some old timers I respect that's still alive here. Well, look at what's his name? Sonny Franchese, he just died. He was 103. I was having dinner with him at Parkside. He come out of prison because he was 103 years of age. No, there's some guys, and there's two guys in Sicily that, thank God, because I do a lot of business in Sicily. I own Corleone Pasta. I own the digestibles for the Godfather. If you go on Corleone Fine Italian Foods online, they're all my foods. So they're all produced over there. So I'm there 3-4 times a year. So they all come out of the woodwork. I have dinner for them, Yeah, and it's just fun.
People are fascinated with this kind of stuff. We did a show a number of years ago with Frank Coletta and what was Hill's name? Henry Hill.
Oh my God,
Henry Hill. I got to tell you, Gianni, look, I've been doing shows for 34 years. A lot of them are on YouTube. We have 600,000 views of a TV show I do with Henry Hill.
Right.
What's with the fascination that people have with mob figures?
I've been asked that question so many times. I made a career of it, number one. But even as a kid, as we were growing up, Humphrey Bogart, Cagney, all of them played mobsters. They had big careers. The world has always been fascinated by the mob. It's that dark side that women love. I see women drawn to these guys. They can leave their husbands and have drinks with us. They think I'm in the mob. I'm not in the mob. I got every license there is. I got an international importing, exporting license to China. I ship my vodka and everything else, my wine. So, I mean, that's why people say to me, "Oh, you with the mob?" How can I be with the mob? It's like, right. I got every legitimate license. I got a permit to carry in New York. It's the hardest license to get. But,
right. No. Of course, if there is a mob today, it's a whole lot different than what it used to be. But it seems like different ethnicities, have their little gangs and niches.
Well, that's the problem now because, especially in New York, we have we got every gang, Russians, we got every gang there is. But the thing that bothers me most about these gangs, the major income is through narcotics.
All right.
So
what do we got? A minute left? Quickly, just a quick last question. You were born in New York. You've lived in New York, LA, Vegas, Miami. Yeah, but you're back in New York now. Why? You got about 30 seconds left.
Well, I'm sitting in Frank Costello's apartment. He died in 1973. He left it to me. I never told anybody about it. And when you get down to it, New York is, to me, the last respectful town. People say hello to you. They shake hands. It's all gone. I mean, you walk down Bay. There's not even sidewalks to walk down the Bay. It's where you going. It's like crazy. It's homeless. It's everything. But where I'm on the Upper East Side, very nice neighborhood, all brownstones. Why would I want to be here? I have homes off in Europe now. I got a big farm in Puglia. So I travel and have fun.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to you bringing that show to Vegas.
Please, I'll be there.
It'd be a must-see.
Always the best. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Gianni Russo.
Thank you.
For small town girls and soft summer nights, we'd hide from the lights on the village green when I was 17.